The Mandela Catalog, a calm horror story to fall asleep to. Tonight, we're taking a slow, quiet trip into one of the internet's most unsettling horror worlds, the Mandela Catalog. So get comfortable, turn the lights down if you want to, and if you're listening in bed, maybe don't look too closely at the dark corner of your room. This is a horror story, but not the kind that needs to shout at you every 30 seconds. The Mandela Catalog is quiet horror. It lives in old television screens, in empty hallways, in phone calls that feel almost normal. It is the kind of story that asks one simple question. What would you do if someone you loved came home, but something about them was wrong? And before we begin, if you enjoy calm horror stories, analog horror deep dives, and strange internet mysteries to listen to at night, make sure to subscribe to the channel. There will be plenty more stories waiting for you. Now, let's begin. The Mandela Catalog was created by Alex Kister. It is an analog horror series, which means it tells much of its story through old-looking footage, VHS tapes, emergency broadcasts, school videos, police reports, religious cartoons, and strange recordings that feel as if they were found in a box no one was supposed to open. The story takes place in a fictional place called Mandela County, Wisconsin. At first, Mandela County looks ordinary. It has houses, schools, churches, police officers, families, late-night television, and quiet suburban streets. But behind all of that is something ancient and patient. Something has been entering people's lives, something that can look like them. These creatures are known as alternates. An alternate is not just a monster hiding in a closet. It is an imitator. It can copy a person's face. It can copy their voice. It can know personal things about them. It can stand in front of a family and look almost completely human. Almost. And that small word, almost, is where the fear begins. Because in Mandela County, people are warned to be careful around anyone who seems different, anyone who looks familiar but feels wrong, anyone whose smile lasts too long, anyone whose face seems to shift when you are not looking directly at it. The worst part is that the people of Mandela County are not given much help. The emergency broadcasts are calm and official. They use the soft, reassuring language of public service announcements. But the advice they give is deeply disturbing. Stay indoors. Do not open the door for strangers. Do not trust every voice on the phone. And sometimes, do not call the police. Just imagine hearing that on a late-night television broadcast. You are scared. You think something is outside your house. You want help, but the television calmly suggests that help may not be safe either. That is the mood of the Mandela Catalog. It takes normal systems, emergency lines, police departments, family homes, churches, and makes them feel fragile. In this world, safety is not something you can assume. It is something you have to question. But the story does not begin in the 1990s, or in a dark house, or with a frightened family. It may begin much earlier. One of the most disturbing ideas in the series is that history itself has been changed. The Mandela Catalog shows a twisted version of the nativity story. In the familiar biblical story, the angel Gabriel appears as a messenger of God. But in this version, the figure calling itself Gabriel may be something else entirely, something pretending to be holy, something using a trusted image to lead people in the wrong direction. The series does not explain every detail in a neat, simple way. It wants you to sit with the uncertainty, but it strongly suggests that a false angel interfered with the events surrounding Jesus' birth. It speaks to Joseph and fills him with doubt. It makes him question what is real, what is sacred, and what he is supposed to do. And if that figure is truly an imposter, then the horror becomes much larger than Mandela County. It means the alternates may not be a new problem. They may have been influencing humanity for a very, very long time. There is something especially unsettling about that idea. Not a sudden invasion from another planet, not a monster that appears one night and is defeated by morning. Instead, imagine something quietly changing the world, one choice at a time. Something wearing familiar faces. Something taking the shape of what people trust most. That is what makes the false Gabriel so frightening. It is not just evil, it is imitation. And imitation is the central idea behind everything in the Mandela catalog. The alternates do not simply chase people. They study them. They understand their fears. They know how to make a person feel alone in their own home. The series introduces a term called metaphysical awareness disorder, often shortened to MAD. In the world of Mandela County, MAD is connected to people learning something so terrible that they can no longer cope with it. The knowledge is too much. The world no longer feels safe. Their understanding of reality collapses. It is a very simple horror concept when you think about it. Sometimes the scariest thing is not seeing the monster. Sometimes it is understanding that the monster has always been there. And once you know that, you cannot go back to the way things were. One of the most tragic stories in the series belongs to a young man named Mark Heathcliff. Mark's story begins with a phone call. His friend, Cesar Torres, contacts him and asks for help. Cesar says that his mother is sick. He asks Mark to go to his house and pick up a camera. It sounds ordinary. It sounds like the kind of favor a friend would do without thinking too much about it. But this is Mandela County, and in Mandela County, a familiar voice does not always belong to the person you think it does. Mark goes to Cesar's house. The atmosphere is strange from the beginning. The house is empty. The camera records unsettling things. There are clues that something has already entered the Torres family's world. The series does not rush to explain every image. It lets the silence do some of the work. You watch the empty rooms. You look at the grainy footage, and you begin to feel that Mark was never meant to leave that house unchanged. Years later, Mark is still haunted by something from his past. This presence is often called the intruder. The intruder is connected to televisions, missing children, and strange moments where a screen stops feeling like a screen. It feels like a window, or maybe a doorway. The intruder does not need to run after anyone. It does not need to leap out of the dark. It simply appears. It watches. It waits. And for Mark, the fear becomes impossible to escape. Eventually, he is alone in his own home, being tormented by an alternate. He tries to call for help, but help cannot arrive in time. The series strongly implies that the psychological pressure becomes too much for him. Mark's story is sad because he is not a hero who defeats the monster at the end. He is a person who gets caught in a nightmare too large to understand. And that is a pattern we see again and again in this universe. The people in Mandela County are not foolish. They are not weak. They are simply trying to live ordinary lives in a world where the rules of reality have been quietly broken. Now, as the years pass, we meet two more important characters, Adam Murray and Jonah Marshall. Adam and Jonah run a small paranormal investigation group called the Bythorn Paranormal Society. You can picture them as two young guys with cameras, flashlights, and just enough confidence to enter places they probably should not enter. They take a case connected to a woman named Evelyn Miller. There are reports of something strange inside a house. Maybe it is haunted. Maybe there are voices. Maybe there is something in the basement. At first, it has the feeling of a familiar ghost story. Two friends enter a creepy house. One of them is skeptical. One of them is curious. They hear sounds. They find evidence. They make the very understandable but very unfortunate decision to keep looking. But this is not really a ghost story. The house contains signs of an alternate presence. There is a basement. There are recordings. There are clues that someone or something has been waiting for Adam and Jonah. Jonah is the first one to truly understand that they need to leave. Adam, however, becomes more interested in finding answers, and that difference says a lot about them. Jonah wants to survive. Adam wants to know. In most horror stories, curiosity is dangerous. In the Mandela catalog, curiosity can be even worse. The more you learn, the more likely you are to see something that notices you back. Jonah eventually makes it to the car. For a moment, it seems like he might be safe. He is outside. He is driving away. The house is behind him. But the horror of Mandela County does not stay in one place. A voice comes through the radio. It speaks to Jonah with a calm certainty. It knows how frightened he is. It knows exactly what to say. And the moment is frightening because it proves that distance does not matter. You can leave the house, but you cannot always leave the thing that found you there. Jonah's fate is one of the darker moments in the story. Adam remains behind, and his story becomes even stranger. Over time, the series hints that Adam may have a connection to the alternates that goes deeper than anyone realizes. Some of the details are still open to interpretation, so it is better to say the story suggests rather than confirms. But the possibility is terrifying. Adam may not be searching for the truth as an outsider. He may be connected to the very thing he is trying to understand. That is one of the reasons fans keep returning to the Mandela catalog. It does not simply give you a monster and a clear explanation. It gives you fragments. It gives you old recordings. It gives you characters who may not fully understand themselves. Then it asks you to connect the pieces. And when you do, the picture that forms is never comforting. As the story grows, we also learn about other people caught in the nightmare, including Evelyn Miller and investigator Dave Lee. Their stories help show that the alternates are not focused on one house or one family. They can appear anywhere, in a school, in a church, at a police station, on a television screen, at the other end of a phone call. The idea is simple, and that is why it is so effective. Every place that should make you feel safe can be copied. Every person you trust can be imitated. Every message that sounds official can be false. And if you live in Mandela County, you do not get to know for certain which is which. That is the real horror of the series. It is not only about a strange face appearing in the dark. It is about losing your ability to recognize the world. A false angel imitates divine authority. An alternate imitates a human being. An emergency broadcast imitates safety. And slowly, the people living in this world lose the ability to tell what is real from what is pretending to be real. That is why the analog horror style works so well. Old VHS footage already feels uncertain. It flickers, it warps, it loses detail. Faces blur, audio breaks apart. A message can be damaged or changed before you ever see it. When the Mandela catalog uses that style, it makes every piece of information feel unstable. You are not watching a clean, polished movie where the camera shows you exactly what is happening. You are watching evidence. Or maybe you are watching something that wants you to believe it is evidence. And that is a very different kind of fear. If you are listening to this late at night, maybe that is why this story works so well as something to fall asleep to. It is slow, it is quiet. It gives you space to imagine what might be hiding between the pieces. You do not need every answer for the fear to work. In fact, the unanswered questions are often the scariest part. Was the false Gabriel truly the beginning of everything? How many alternates are there? How many people in Mandela County have already been replaced? And if an alternate can copy a face, a voice, a memory, and a relationship, what is left that proves a person is really themselves? The series is still unfolding, which means not every mystery has a confirmed answer. That is worth remembering whenever we talk about the deeper lore. Some things are clear, Some things are strongly implied, and some things are still theories that viewers are piecing together from distorted tapes and hidden details. But the central nightmare is very clear. In this world, evil does not always look like evil. Sometimes it sounds comforting. Sometimes it looks familiar. Sometimes it asks you to let it inside. So, as we slowly come to the end of tonight's story, think about the people of Mandela County. They are living in a world where a knock at the door can mean danger, where a phone call from a friend can be a trap, where a television screen can become a window for something that has been watching all along, and where the most frightening possibility is not that you are alone, it is that you are not alone at all. Maybe that is why the Mandela catalog has stayed with so many people. It takes familiar things, home, family, faith, emergency broadcasts, old television, and gently bends them out of shape. It turns a safe room into a place where you listen for footsteps. It turns a familiar face into a question. It turns silence into something that feels like it is waiting. And it leaves you with one last thought. If someone you loved stood outside your door tonight, and they looked exactly right, and they sounded exactly right, would you know if it was really them? Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this calm horror story and you want more analog horror deep dives, eerie internet mysteries, and dark stories to fall asleep to, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. It really helps the channel grow, and it means you will not miss the next story. For now, rest easy. Keep the lights low, keep the volume soft, and if you hear a knock at the door tonight, maybe wait a moment before you answer. Good night.